Hi, this is my review presentation for week 8. So what we did mostly this week was a lot of review of the past couple of weeks that we've been doing on this conceptual hiking trip. So the first thing we talked about was the overall history of our hiking trip. So we do sort of a intellectual history, which is a proposive discourse, and we engage in the practice of the history by shining a spotlight on each of the texts that we read. But really, it's a Fresnelian history. Um, so we're kind of working to understand the complexity of this. So our first metaphor was, in general, is the hiking trip. We then talked about our other metaphor, which is the compass. Each of the poles representing a social, economic, or religious thing, which is kind of pulling in each direction. And we kind of talked about an advanced hiking. So we're doing some analysis of the purposive leader, which emerges from a number of concepts, which are the concepts that are located at each pole. Um, so what we've been doing is more than one story because American history is really complex. Um, so the third thing we kind of did was a review from the beginning of all of the things we covered, such as starting from the religious exodus from England of the Puritans, leaving the Anglican Church and coming here. And they believe that they were an essential journey within Christian history. Then we moved on to body analogy of Winthrop, of loving the body, moving towards the age of reason or political organization, universal rationality, and all humans having capacity to use reason to make decisions, which stemmed from the printing press, which opened doors to much more possibilities. So the scientific revolution causes anxiety of Winthrop's concept, and it begins to fracture. So the Puritan covenant starts to fall. And the fourth thing we talked about was a different history or another story. The development of the Republican covenant, sorry, um, where Jefferson, he's talking about racial differences, but you find out that slaves and people and human trafficking was here long before the Puritans were. So the Puritans were living knowing all of this about the South, but not really doing anything about it. So although we know one side of the story, there's a whole other story, and there's many other stories that we haven't actually looked at. Um, and the last thing we talked about was about the development of technology, feudalism, the steam engine, more on the Age of Reason, and the narrative swap that goes from what is a religious covenant to a republic, which is more sophisticated, united by state instead of by religion. Um, and we start to try to figure out what is the best political organization instead of a religious organization. But these new